doing a little ride with the Piangal and the Yiggy Yigs, and then what do you know, the clear clutch cover pimping. I can see, I don't know if it'll show up on the camera, light that up, there you go, you can see, there you go, the springs, the green springs there are backed out, which means that I've only got first and second gear really, and then I'm lucky I caught it in the feel of the clutch, so that way I don't blow my fucking clutch out. So, yet another friggin' Iggy Custom Garage maintenance video. Hey y'all, today on the garage, I need to do possibly a retightening. So last night I was out with a good friend of mine, and we were out doing some twisty roads, and when we were getting fairly close to a twisty road, all of a sudden I reached in on my clutch, pulled in on it to shift down, and all of a sudden the handle was stiff, like I was trying to pull on, well, the 2x4s that I'm supporting the bike with. So if I go up here, this is my brake handle, obviously you can see the brake handle, it's got full range of motion, right? The clutch handle, however, and this is set on the furthest out setting, I can only get it to there. I usually sit it at about 3, and I was just getting no motion. I had very, very bad, poor clutch feel, and I ended up towing the bike home. Shout out to CAA. So my thought process is the bolts may have backed out. The diagram that I was using originally was for 08, 09-ish RC8R, and the clutch there is actually a 6-bolt spring pattern, and I'll see if I can insert what that looks like. And then this is obviously a 3-bolt. So my original thought process is, well, let me check the torque. So I'm going to pull the all the 5 bolts off, of which I've got to change my other video. These are actually hex number 5s, not number 6s. So yeah. Alright, so the torque specs for the, I've already pre-loosened these. The torque specs for the pressure plate was 106.8, I believe, inch-pounds when I converted it. I believe I torqued to 107 even, because really I can't see that. So my thought process on how to basically diagnose this to see whether or not the spring's backed off is, I have my torque wrench set up to 100 foot-pounds of torque. So basically, because I think that it's shifted, or I think it's backed off, I mean not shifted, I have it set to 100, and I'm just going to try torquing it at 100 to see whether or not the bar clicks. And if it clicks, well, I know that it's actually sitting at 100, so then that might be my first issue. And I'll try all 3 like that. I've got the bike up on the 2x4s front and rear, like I did the last time. Gasket's pulling away here. This gasket's only been on for a very short amount of time, so I'm going to reuse it. When it does pop out like that, you just kind of have to maneuver it back in. The gasket is bigger than is required, so you kind of have to, you'll end up getting a little kink like that, and you kind of have to smooth it in, smooth it out to get it to fit properly. I had to do this originally too. This happens to be on camera this time. There. So still looks pretty good. No issues with that. Bike's been sitting now for quite a while. I didn't bother to take off the bottom fairing, because I learned from the first time that if it's up on the 2x4s, do I have it? I don't have to. So that's interesting. So I don't know if this matters or not, but right there, there's a bit of a gap bit of a gap there. On that side, it almost looks like it's touching. So I don't know if this entire case is shifted or not, or what have you. I'm gonna get the stock clutch pressure plate. So the Evotech has got these recesses here where the bolts are, and originally I thought, or I couldn't remember if the stock one had the same recesses, but they do. So I thought there might have been a difference in between. I wonder if there's got to be a little bit extra torque that happens, but obviously not. Okay, so moment of truth on my theory is that the bolts backed off. Torque bar is set to 100. Well, nope. That's completely fine at 100. Okay, so then I will check the torque again at the 108 that I put it at, so 5, 100, 1, 2, and 3. Torque is fine. Torque is fine. Torque is fine. Well, so much for that theory. Okay, my only thought process now is the clutch slave cylinder. So, watch for the clutch slave cylinder bleeding video next. Okay guys, something I noticed. The Evotech Racing, that's not going to be able to focus in on that, but there's actual threads in there, like the threads for the bolt. And this bolt, when it goes in, it actually has quite a lot of play to it. I'm trying to get this right for the camera. If I turn it full tilt, it'll actually tilt quite a bit. The stock pressure plate, it goes in, there's no threads on the inside of it, and if I tilt it, it has very, very little movement. Sorry, very, very little movement. I don't know how many degrees that is, but it's very small in comparison to the Evotech Racing pressure plate, which has quite a bit of movement. So I'm going to put the original pressure plate in back onto the bike and see if that rectifies my problem. Alright, so I put the original pressure plate onto the clutch, although I did keep the clear clutch cover. It actually doesn't look horrible, but still same issue with the clutch. It does still spin, and I do technically still have, I guess, first and second gear if I want it, but I didn't test that out. So next up is going to be the clutch slave bleeding. See if that fixes my problem.